I can always cut whatever beginning there is. So, hi,
Hi,
I'm Nick,
I'm Jill,
and
and
we're
we're
Hipstrings.
Hipstrings.
Today is August 22nd, 2017,
And it's episode 9.
episode 9. All right. We can't even make a Star Wars reference here.
Not yet.
Not yet. Too bad.
So.
Right. So, I guess we're having this first sort of continuation episode
Yeah.
where today we will talk about picking a pattern for your sweater, since we talked about sweaters last time. It seems like so long ago.
It does. A lot of stuff has happened in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and we got all sorts of weird things happening, like school is starting up for the kids in 2 days, right? And that means that we're going to be changing some things with the studio. Our studio hours are changing, and I guess that's the main things that are coming up. But I don't want to steal the thunder for the rest of the show.
And the ride that is from fall to the end of the year for us begins.
Yeah. There's also eclipse in between.
There was.
Yeah, I didn't get blind.
And
Did
I
you
took,
get blind?
No.
Okay, good.
I know how to follow directions. And I took a trip to Maryland.
Yeah.
And there was a trunk show. So we'll talk about things. But first, Warp Twisted and Loopy.
Yeah.
So I should have not put things on top of this. The first thing I want to talk about was an FO, which is
your current tablecloth.
my tablecloth. So the weaving has been done on this for a long time. The spinning has been even longer. But I finally hemmed it.
And washed it.
And washed it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call it a face cloth. It is a piece of cloth. It is an 8-2 warp. And then it is hand spun, spindle spun cotton weft, also hand dyed. This is some of the very first cotton I ever dyed before I even thought of a business.
Really?
Yes, this was dyed with tie-dyes on the back.
You weren't kidding when you said it's been long for a while.
Adrian was a wee babe. So
this is just cotton?
This is just cotton.
Yeah. It's really soft.
It makes me want to make all my weaving with hand-spun weft.
Well, I've got that scarf that I've been working on for quite a while. So
That's almost off the limb.
it's almost off the limb. Maybe I'll get it done for next time.
Maybe.
I only have one thing to talk about, so I'll let you continue to your next.
Yeah, so I have a almost FO. So I just have to weave in ends and Kitchener the underarms. But this is Adrian's Crazy Heart. So it is Bowie DK in Firecracker for the red, Cobblestone, Robos, Starfish, Goldenrod, and Bone. And this is, I think, a kid 6 to 8 in the Crazy Heart pattern.
And what did Adrian think when he saw that?
He likes it. Well,
not as much as Chris?
He loves it, not as much as Chris. I told him he has to wear it to Rhinebeck. He's like, do I have to? I said, yes, you have to. He loves his mama sweaters. I think he just doesn't like being forced to wear things at a certain time and date.
Yeah. Well. So I am being monogamous with my knitting. So previously I had shown my 2 sleeves, and now I've gotten to most of my body, and it's gotten to a routine where I get about an inch a day. So this is really, if I was following the pattern directly, I'd be done. But I like my sweaters long. I like them to have a couple of extra inches. And the other thing that I did, which I was fighting you about, is I did the waist shaping, because believe it or not, men don't like giant baggy sweaters, or at least this man doesn't.
Yeah.
I really like having not tight form-fitting sweaters, but I don't like having.
You like a tailored fit.
Yeah, that's the right word. The tailor fit. I like it with all my clothes, and I think if more men were given that option, more men would like it.
Yeah. So you took a hip measurement and we took a waist measurement.
And I didn't do everything that it said. It said to have 4 rows of decreases, and I ended up only doing 3. So it's not going to be quite as curvy.
Right. It's only about an inch, maybe a little bit more than an inch taken in.
Yeah.
So it'll really won't be noticeable,
Yeah.
but will make a difference to you.
And I guess a continuation to the previous podcast as well. I finished the wonky ball that was on there, and had the second wonky ball added into it. So for those of you playing along with the drinking game that apparently somebody invented, that's 2, now 3 wonky balls. So only statements, not actual use. But that's the status on my sweater. I'm hoping to by the next podcast
Be on the yoke?
be done. And starting on Gabriella's. Actually, we're going to have to delay that podcast.
We're going to have to delay. You'll be in China.
I'll be in China. Maybe I can do a little segment from the plane or something.
Or I solo a podcast.
You gotta clip in my segment.
Yes. So the reason why Adrian's sweater is not done is because I was too excited to start my own Crazy Heart. So I have the beginnings of a sleeve.
4 times over. 3 times over?
This is the 3rd time.
Okay, 3 times over.
The color is mine. I had a batch that I had dyed in my Admiral colorway, and it dyed a little splotchy. So I went and I overdyed it and added more blue and I think some black and stuff into it. So it's a really dark navy blue with slight pipe purple undertones.
It almost perfectly matches your dress.
I am very consistent in my color choices. So I was in D.C. and Maryland last weekend, the weekend before, for my trunk show at Clover Hill, and then I hung out with friends at Otakon, and I met up with some friends in Alexandria. And I went to Fiberspace, and the only yarn that came home with me was some wool miza, but it was a purple that matched my purse perfectly. And then I recently bought a dress that matches a backpack I have perfectly.
Consistency is not a bad thing.
Yeah, so as Nick said, this is the 3rd time knitting the sleeve. And that's because I knit it, and then I was like, I really don't like how fast the decreases are coming. And so I checked it against Nick's sleeve because we're actually knitting the same size. And my row gauge is different than his. And so my increases were going on much faster. And I didn't like the look. I don't like a lot of extra fabric around my wrist. So I switched needle types. I switched from using metal needles to bamboo needles because that's supposed to make your stitches a little bit taller. And it did. My stitches are a little bit taller. But then I did it again, and I still didn't like the extra fabric by my wrist. So I ripped back to the ribbing again, and then I knit plain for 10 rows, and then started the increases. And I'm still happy with it. It's still, I think to be an ideal sweater for me, I would probably start with an even smaller stitch count at the wrist because I like a tight
You could
wrist.
always start a 4th time.
No, I'm going to live with it now.
Just live with it, suffer. I will say it's kind of remarkable the flexibility and the variability that people can have. We generally knit very similarly, but because I was using different needles than you, and because I don't know what else. I mean, we're using the same size.
Yeah, our stitch gauge is spot on the same. Like the width of my sleeve is the same. It was just the row gauge, so
okay.
It was just expanding faster.
That sounds like it's a segment in itself.
People have done studies of knitting the same size needle with different needle types
Yeah.
and
Same
see how it
size.
changes your gauge.
Oh, same size needle, different needle types. Okay.
Yeah, and it does have an effect. So if you are swatching and you're not getting things just right, there are adjustments you can make, not just to needle size, but needle material. And it's a good reason why to justify having more than one interchangeable set. I think you should have at least a wood or a bamboo set and a metal set.
So where does the
At
carbon
least.
fiber fit in on that? Is that more like a wood or more like a metal?
I think it's in between.
I like carbon fiber. Maybe it's because I'm indecisive.
Yeah, I would like the carbon fiber too if they didn't use nickel metal bits.
I'm sorry, everybody's just trying to kill you.
Well, they're trying to kill you too, so.
Yeah.
So I will also show off my neat little trick for remembering how many increases I need to make. So I don't run a row counter. I will count my rows
Because they walk.
Because they walk.
They walk in a house full of
Everything
3 children.
in my world walks.
And a husband knitter.
Yes. So things walk. So I found the best ways to keep track by using these little locking stitch markers when I do my when I start each new round, and then to know how many. So I don't need to have my pattern around because patterns walk too, and phones walk and everything. I attached all of the stitch markers that I will need to mark all of my increases to my sweater sleeve, and so then I can just grab from here as I'm going up, and when I've run out of stitch markers, then I'm done with my increases.
So I'm going to one-up you on that. You have 2 colors and they mean nothing, as far as I can tell, right?
Yes, they mean nothing.
When I was doing the increases on my body, I was marking the increase rows with
for your
one
waist
color.
shaping?
Yeah, for the waist shaping. Sorry, the decrease rows. When those were completed, I then marked my my maintenance rows and then my increase rows with the original color again. So I changed colors between whether I was doing maintenance or increase because they had different counts between the rows. But not only that, in order to maintain the pattern, the third decrease row, or sorry, the fourth decrease row and the first increase row, I didn't actually do the increase or decrease because I was only doing 3 or 4, right? 3 instead of 4. And so I put that stitch marker backwards.
You are a smart man.
No, I'm just OCD. But anyways, it helped me to remember just by looking at the stitch markers that I had, what I had done previously, because this is great. I get to come back to the project every day, but there are some projects which I haven't touched in years, and I really wish I would have had the foresight to mark them with some
yeah, using locking
some
stitch
weird pattern.
markers to mark up your work in progress is a very good trick.
Right. So is that?
And then I've got one other whip.
Yeah, I was going to say you're working on something
So
that I didn't know about.
This is my knitting I threw together for my trip. It is the Winnie shawl by Kie Knitwit, Sarah Jordan. She just released it. I'm knitting it. It's a fingering weight shawl. It
Ooh, that one. Yeah,
looks like
pretty.
this.
Come closer.
Well, you need to look closer for this part, because this part, this is a hand-spun version. The blue, the kind of teal in there, is Legend of Squee.
Hmm.
So I'm working it in sabbatical, which is a sport weight instead of a fingering weight, and that's because I like big shawls. So I've got an extra bit. This is just the bare sabbatical, which I realize I don't have up on the website. Once I find the photos I took of it, I will put it up on the website. And then I'm using this one-of-a-kind colorway. Retreat will be the other color for it. So, but I'm working it on size 6, yes. And my Shagu Twist Lace, which these are my favorite metal needles now.
Why is that?
I really like their tip. They have a nice sharp tip, but it's not too sharp. The angle that it then moves onto the needle is very nice. It has the same kind of metal finish throughout the entire tip. I like it.
Well, they
It
also have
works
a
very
weird locking thing, so it's not just screw-on,
No,
right?
this is a screw-on.
Oh, that's a screw-on?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one you're thinking is the Collage, which I've decided I do not like their twist lock system.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Never mind. I didn't say anything.
but I do think I will get some fixed circulars of the Collage squares because I really like them. The interchangeable is not working out as well as I'd like.
I love square needles. If I could get square carbon fiber needles, I think I'd be in heaven.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
We could probably make some. I can get square rods.
Yeah, the tips we got to worry about.
Yeah, well, you grind them.
Anyway, birth of a product right there.
So I ripped this out a couple times because it has a 2-stitch garter edge, and it was just getting too tight next to the increases, and so I didn't like how it was bunching up. So I looked up online how to fix that, and so now I'm doing a yarn over right after that garter edge, and in a complicated way, I'm doing my yarn over for the increase, the row before I actually knit into it. And so it's working out very nicely. So I'm very happy with it. So.
All right. Well, that was Warp, Twisted, and Loopy. Mm-hmm. What's next?
So back to sweater knitting.
Right. Right. So last time we talked about
picking a yarn.
Picking your yarn, yeah, and talking a little bit about the fiber types, and I tried to drag out of you why we were doing
Rhinebeck sweaters,
which just because apparently
it's Rhinebeck.
But now, how do you pick a pattern? And I guess I talked a little bit about the fact that the shaping matters, at least to me, right? And then you've got how thick
their
they intended to be, the
structure
structure, and all right.
thickness.
So what's how do you approach?
So I start with the yarn,
pattern?
And then once I have a yarn, I swatch. I don't typically do sweaters with a lot of pattern, because I'm a very impatient knitter, and I want things done.
You're a project knitter.
Well, people can want a really fancy product. I don't want a fancy product.
No, but you gain satisfaction about completing the project.
And progress.
Not about
and patterns
doing
slow
the
me down.
project and doing the pattern, right?
Yes.
So you get frustrated if the pattern just takes too long. Me, I've been working on my manliest bracers in the world for...
Let's not talk about how long.
4 years? Adrian was Chris's age, or a little bit younger.
No. That was our first Maryland sheep and wool. Adrian was an infant.
Yeah.
So he was 6.
But I didn't get all the parts of it until we went to New York.
Which was that fall.
Yeah.
So still about 6 years old.
Right. So, and I feel completely happy because it's...
Your whip can go to kindergarten. No, your whip is going into first grade.
It's going to first grade. Now you're just making me want to keep it so that I can drink. I can have a 21-year drink with
Are you going to start
with
throwing parties for your whip? Birthday parties?
Oh, man. That is the... I can't tell if I'd have extreme guilt over that or it's a great way to alleviate the guilt. Just celebrate. Because what I'm trying to get to is the fact that I enjoy the pattern and I enjoy the complexity and working through something weird and seeing it come out, 4 rows later. And I'm kind of okay with that. And I can set it aside and be like, you know what? It's cool. I'll get to that. And the big problem is with a house of 3 children where things walk, and they want your constant attention.
I know where those are. You could
I
pick
know
them up.
exactly where they are. They are sitting. They stare at me every time we watch TV. But it's more. I need to pay attention to it because one of the downsides of being a process knitter is I like really complex things, which means I need to focus on that, and I can't do it while watching TV. I can't do it while taking care of the kids or waiting for something to cook. Like I need to get into the mindset and work on it.
See, I've given up on having an attention span for the next 16 years.
Yeah, well, sorry, I hijacked the
No, because it's
sweater
relevant.
pattern.
So you should pick a pattern that you will enjoy knitting.
In your current scenario.
In your current, yes, life path. So you should make a swatch. If you think you're going to knit the sweater in the round, knit a sleeve. Just start a sleeve, and that can be your swatch. Which, you might just need to pick up a basic sweater pattern, knit a sleeve. That's what's great about like the Heart of My Sleeve collection is they all use the same sleeve.
Yeah.
So
it
your
has a
sleeve is your
section of the book
swatch.
that says it's a sleeve, and there's another section of the book that says it's a body.
Yeah, and then you pick a yoke.
Yeah.
And then you want to measure your swatch. You need to measure your swatch after it's been washed in some way. So I will.
But Jill, you don't want to cast off in the middle of your sleeve.
I will leave stitches on like a cable and I will take my needles off and put, usually most needles have stoppers you can put just on your cable. They also make handy.
So?
Yeah, like so. And then I will even keep the yarn attached to the ball and just soak it in some water, maybe a little bit of wool wash. Let it soak for about 10-15 minutes. Move it around gently. Not too much. Gently squeeze all the water out, put it out on a towel, and let it lay flat to dry. Just like I would launder the sweater. If you're working with a drapey yarn, you might want to let it hang to dry because that will let gravity take its toll if it's going to weigh down.
How long of a sleeve should they knit before they consider this is a swatch?
I usually knit at least 6 inches for a good size swatch. If it's a yarn weight that I'm not used to, or if it's yarn I'm not used to and I don't know how it's going to behave, then I'll knit at least 6 inches. This is why it's good to just get a start on a sleeve. And if at any time you're starting your swatch and you just don't like the fabric that you're creating, it's too loose or it's too tight, just stop and rip it back.
Yeah, your gut feelings are...
The goal is to make a fabric you like with the yarn you have, not to try to hit a certain gauge. This is why it's good to start with a swatch first and then find your pattern, because there are too many tears shed with trying to get a yarn to work for a pattern.
Well, the other thing is that a lot of these sweater patterns that are really good, especially if you're not worrying about decoration, the really complex things. Like we've got a little bit of decoration in the yoke for the crazy heart, but if you're not worried about things like a meandering cable that meets up in the center and creates something bizarre, then you don't really have to worry about stitch count and the you just need to worry about getting length of sleeve, length of body, and all that stuff. There was a really good perfect fitting sweater pamphlet that people were selling like 3-4 years ago.
Amy Herzog has written a number of books now about fit for sweaters, and that's a really good resource. I also like the Ann Budd sweater books, which are a whole bunch of different gauges for different types of sweater.
Styles and types.
Styles and
I like
types.
it.
So yeah, so you measure a swatch. Can you grab in the side of that bin? There's the Acroworks. It's around the edge somewhere. So, I haven't used this yet.
We talked about it. We showed it off.
Yeah, I have great faith in it. I'm going to test my sleeve right now. So this is a little tool by Acroworks to be able to calculate gauge easily. So I'm going to see.
I feel like we need to have a something going on in the meantime. You didn't give me any sort of segue or intro or guidance. Oh man. So how about that eclipse? Yeah, there's a lot of ways to measure your gauge. Obviously, you could just use a ruler. You can use one of these wonderful tools. You can guess. In general, I wouldn't recommend guessing.
Yeah.
But it's useful to measure your gauge, as you're saying, so that if you want to look for a pattern, and you can sort patterns in Ravelry based on gauge, right?
Yes, you can.
Which
it's
is
wonderful.
A really cool thing. And note that, remember, Ravelry doesn't necessarily just have patterns that you can buy in Ravelry. They also reference patterns from books and things like that. It's a great resource. We're in the age of technology. Use it.
Yep. So that's what I do, is knit a swatch. Knit it flat if you're going to knit your sweater in pieces, or if it's going to be like a cardigan. Sorry, I'm doing a thing. But get your gauge, and then use Ravelry's search feature to search for patterns based on your gauge. And then you'll know that you're getting a fabric that you like with the yarn that you like. And there are so many choices out there for sweater designs that you'll find something that you like. You can take into account, construction, if you want it top down, bottom up, in the round, in pieces, what type of sleeve. And a lot of that has to depend on what looks good on you. And so you can base it on sweaters that you've had in the past, either, commercial sweaters or other hand knit sweaters that you like. You can look at other people's projects from a pattern to see if you can find somebody with a similar body type. You should be able to find something that you're going to like. And it's worth taking some time to research before you finally settle, because a sweater is something that should be with you for a long time.
Yeah.
And then, so most patterns are written with a particular yarn in mind, and that will affect your final product. Even if you have the same gauge, the type of yarn is going to make a difference in the fabric and how that sweater was designed.
How it drapes.
How it drapes
and
all
the
that
stitch
stuff.
definition. And
So you can either say, oh, I think this is going to work out, even though I'm working with a wool yarn that's a very woolly yarn, and the pattern was designed for a cotton silk. The products will be two different things. So just try to match up similar yarn characteristics. If it's 100% wool, your yarn should be 100% wool. You can, if it's a silk blend, that kind of characteristics, because that'll give you a more reliable outcome.
So I'll challenge you to go back on that in the fact that a lot of times, especially if you don't have experience with a lot of different types of yarn, you've got a silk blend. You bought it at a show, and it's really great. But you find a pattern that's for straight wool. What do you do?
So there are things you can do. A sweater. So drape your yarns. Ones that have either superwash wool in them or silk or cellulose fibers like bamboo, tencel, cotton. All of those are going to add drape. Alpaca adds drape, we talked about. There are things you can do to counteract drape in a sweater. Because a lot of times a sweater that has drape is going to grow on you.
Figuratively and literally.
Yes. And so there are things in construction that you can do to counteract that. So I would not knit a drapey yarn into like a top-down seamless sweater.
Why don't we save modifying a pattern for next time?
Yes, we will talk about that next time.
Okay.
So, but
there's ways to modify a pattern if you have a yarn you love and a pattern you love that don't quite mesh.
Right, and there are things you can do to change a pattern. Patterns are guidelines, not written in stone. Just like my modifications for my sleeve, like I can go and say, well, I don't really like how that works for me. I'm going to change it and realize that at the end of my sleeve where it matters, I'm going to have the same stitch count at my underarm and it's still going to fit my arm.
Now, again, I'll challenge you because a lot of times people haven't touched a sweater pattern. This is their first sweater pattern. Hopefully there's a couple of you we've convinced to go ahead and try a sweater. Just doing one, the first one, is pretty daunting as a first task in general. So it's okay to not modify the first pattern.
Right.
Go through one sweater pattern. Try hard to search around for one that you like with a yarn that you like, and it'll take a little bit of searching, but you'll get it. And then think as you're knitting, what might I want to change the next time I do this? Because I always say the first sweater, not your only sweater.
Well, so there's the thing that your teachers tried to get you to do, to read the entire test before you start answering any questions.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with knitting patterns, especially sweaters. Before you start knitting a sweater, read the pattern. Know what you're getting into. A good sweater pattern should also have a schematic, so you know like what the arm length is, what the torso length is, those kind of things.
So I will say, but that's so hard. And then I'll go back to, the whole reason why Jill brings up my previous teachers. I remember there was a class, 6th grade, I believe it was, where they kept on trying to drill into us, read the test, answer the questions that you can do quickly and easily first, and then go back and do the other ones. And I guess nobody in the class was doing that. And so one time we had a test where everybody was working on the test, and somebody flipped over their test, and they were done. It was like within a minute or something, and this is supposed to be a full-long class-long test. I'm like, what's going on? And then a couple more people did that, and I'm like struggling through, and I'm like, I can't get this done that fast. And sure enough, what the last question on the test said, do not answer any of the questions on this test. Just turn your paper over, which will indicate that you're done. And I felt dumb because I was tricked by that. And thankfully I wasn't the only one tricked by it, but it definitely hammered home the idea of read the whole pattern, test, whatever, before you really get to get invested.
Yes, because knitting is not a speedy way to make clothes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And so
it's an inch a day. That seems pretty fast to me.
It will take you a lot less time to read your pattern carefully and look at the schematics and make sure that they line up with you as a person, because everybody is unique. Than it will take for you to knit a sweater and then realize that it's not right for you.
There's always ripping back.
Yes.
All right, I think that's enough on that.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so in the studio,
in the studio, I sent out a newsletter today. If you don't know, we have a newsletter. I maybe send something out every month or two. So I'm
is it that
really...
frequent? I was going to say quarterly.
The last one was June.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, go you.
Um, so don't worry that you're going to get spam. There may be one email a month.
And it's
Short.
not that we are restraining ourselves. It's just we're busy or lazy, or I'm not sure which one. One of those Z's.
I think we'd rather be making things than
Yeah.
telling you about the things we've made.
Yeah, that's our fault.
But there's a yarn sale going on. Because fall is coming and because we want you to knit sweaters, our Bowie DK is the hand dyed is 25% off, so it's only $20 per skein.
And that's what we're knitting our sweaters with.
Yep.
So.
And then the natural is only $15 per skein. So it is an excellent time to pick up a sweaters
Is
quantity.
the 20% off also on the mini skeins?
No, the mini skeins are still their normal price. Buy in bulk and save. And then sabbatical, since this is a merino wool cotton silk, it's more of a spring summer yarn. It is on sale for 30% off, so we can make some room in the studio for new yarns that are coming.
Winter yarns.
Winter yarns. So coming this fall, there's going to be, it finally has a name, El Gordo Sparkle, and El Gordo is our super bulky single ply yarn. I'm just waiting to build up some inventory and then I'll start posting it.
Man, I wish I could draw, because you saying El Gordo Sparkle just now gave me this image of a really fat, adorable unicorn with like a sparkling horn.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, sorry.
There's also a Superwash BFL fingering weight that will be coming to the studio this fall. There'll be more fresh batches of Ivory Tower coming soon, as well as Gifted, which is our Superwash Merino DK. And then I got something back from the mill this week.
Yeah, I was hoping we were going to talk about that.
So we've been trying to find a mill that can work with us to do small batches of our signature blends spun up. And so we did a test run with Bowie in the depths color. And so we have our 3-ply DK.
Closer.
But this is a 2-ply fingering, and this is
Closer.
This is from the actual fiber blend. So this is dyed in the wool, so it has that nice heathered kind of tweedy look. So I just got this. I need to cake it up, check yardage and that kind of stuff, sample it. But we have a very limited run of this that will be available soon.
And if there's interest, we're definitely going to do more. This was very much a trial run.
So I think next a batch of urchin is going to go to the mill, and then we have to make some decisions about what we're going to send for some other small runs.
If you have
of our
any
signature blends.
requests for colors or signature blends to go in a small run, like Pikaki or 123 Death or any of those, one of the unicorns maybe, let us know. We'll put out a vote on the next newsletter or something.
Yeah. So, and then our next show, so I was at Clover Hill. It was great to meet a lot of people and introduce some people to Hipstrings fiber and yarn. I even got to meet Sam Barsky, the guy who does the Intarsia
Sweater man
sweaters of landscapes, and so he was working on his Eclipse sweater when I was there. So it was great. I'm sad I couldn't bring more, but
that's what online sales are for, right?
But if you want to see more, our next show will be Shenandoah Valley Fiber Festival, September 23rd and 24th in Berryville, Virginia. It's not too far from the DC area.
It's only like a 2-hour drive or something, right?
About an hour.
Not even, yeah.
Not even. It's a little bit farther out than like Dulles Airport. It's a really wonderful festival. A lot of the great fiber vendors who you see at Maryland Sheep and Wool also vend there. So,
and it's
you'll
great
see.
because it's not quite as busy as Maryland Sheep and Wool, so you get the time to talk to people. It's a 2-day festival, and if you don't like crowds, Sunday is usually dead.
Yeah.
So stop by then, and we will have a lot more time for hanging out and chatting.
So we're in our usual booth, which is booth 19. We're one of the outdoor booths, and we're right across from the food.
Oh yeah.
So there's
and the wine
and
the kettle corn.
Yeah,
it is really good food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where we'll be next. And then, as Nick mentioned, with the kids going to school, we're changing up the hours at the shop. We're going to be finding a new home for our craft night. So Thursday night craft is going to be in limbo for a little bit. If you've been wanting to come out to the studio in the evening to craft with us and Thursday nights don't work for you, let us know. We're open to other nights.
Yeah. Also, we're very much open to requests. So if you or a group of friends want to stop by either as a regular basis or on a one-time thing, let us know. We'll schedule some time.
So, but we will have some daytime hours. So we'll be open on Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I may increase that to other days of the week. It's just making sure everything works for everybody involved.
Yeah.
And then we'll still have our usual first Saturdays of every month, but we're going to shorten it a little bit from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. But as always, if you want to stop by the shop, just email me at shop@hipstrings.com, and we'll find out a time that will work for everybody involved.
Thank you to everybody who has stopped by the shop in the past 2 weeks again.
Yep.
It's always great seeing you and hanging out. And with that, I think we're at another close.
Yep. So thank you very much.
Oh, and I'm gonna slowly keep adding snarky comments earlier and earlier about the fact you guys should really watch to the end. Just saying.
Just wait.
What? One more thing? Are
One more thing.
Are you Steve Jobs?
No. We don't do the whole social media lineup of where you can find us. So,
oh, gosh.
If you don't know, you can find our products at www.hipstrings.com or hipstrings.etsy.com. The full selection of goods at hipstrings.com, and all the sales are at hipstrings.com. You can find me as Hipstrings on Ravelry. We also have a Facebook page. I'm very active on Instagram. We're a little active on Twitter.
Vaguely. I don't think I've touched that in a while. I'm sorry.
I've been posting some things to it.
Have you? Good.
Yes.
Okay.
I figured out how to log into the account.
And I'm trying to do some stuff on Instagram as well, but as Dr. String, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. I am a bad social mediaist. Social mediator? No, I don't know what the word would be. Anyways, I suck at that stuff. Unless it's Google Plus. I totally used that when, it existed.
You and like 2 other people?
Yeah. I think there was 3.
So, so find us elsewhere as well as Hipstrings on YouTube.
All right.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Like us.
Yeah.
It makes us feel nice and warm.
It makes us feel special. It doesn't do anything for us except for make us feel special, but we do like feeling special. So thank you. All right.
Okay. Now you can go on to the credits.
Have a good 2 weeks.
Have a good 2 weeks.
See you next time.
Bye.